There we go. So yes, welcome. Thank you for coming along this evening. And I do recognise that you've probably had a very busy day. So I really appreciate you coming along tonight. So this is us. The Strathclyde Institute of Education. We're that terracotta building, and that's where we're all based, across from the library that you might know on the corner of Cathedral Street, and next to the brand new, well, recently new, the sports centre. So that's where we can be found. Most of us are housed in there. And um, the, oh, sorry, I knew I'd skipped something. That's me. Sorry. Yeah, Angela De Britos, and I'm the course leader for the MEd Education Studies. That's my email address, and I can pop it into the chat in case you want to copy it and get in touch at any time. So yeah, that's where I work, up on the fifth floor of this lovely building, and I get a fantastic view across the city, and across to the campuses, etc. It's handy. It's in the city centre. However, when you're doing part-time study, as I'll explain, we don't expect you to be on campus, all the time. I'll explain the model that we do that. Although you are welcome to use the library, use the student union, use the sports facilities, just as much as any other student, the full-time students as well. So I'll explain a wee bit about that at the end. So just to, I suppose, give you the why, why bother? And this is from the Donaldson report, and it was the start of this mindset that teaching should be a master's level profession, and that the current CPD, or in-service training, isn't tailored to individuals. It's something that either your authority or your school tends to, they decide what's going on, and that teachers just have to go along with it, rather than it being tailored to your own professional learning needs. So by doing the MEd Ed studies, it means that you can choose. It's a modular course, and you can pick and mix which modules you want to take. You can be a bit more niche and choose one of our pathways, but it really does give you the chance to tailor your studies to your own interests and your own professional learning needs. So I won't read this out, but again, from the report, there were recommendations made. So, recommendation 10 was about teachers, moving into being a master's level profession, and that also the master's levels should be built into initial teacher education qualifications. So we see that, for example, with the PGD, many students will have done the PGD and then come back to continue their studies with us. If there's anyone who has done the BA primary education, so an undergrad degree, and came in that way, then there's ways of giving you some credits, but obviously it isn't as much as the level 11 that you would get for the PGD. But yeah, it's, thinking about how master's levels should be from the start of initial teacher education, during, and then beyond, into their induction year. So these are some of the reasons that we think master's level study is appropriate for teachers and professionals within education, because it's not just teachers. We've got students, thinking of this year and recent years, who are lecturers in further education. We've got people who are working in early years sector. We've got QIOs at local authority level. I've got someone currently who works at GTCS. Let me think, Education Scotland. So, we've got people from a wide variety of backgrounds, but with it being a part-time course, they do all tend to have, or have at some point, been working in an educational, establishment. So, having the opportunity to take your study beyond the workplace. And I think this kind of natural curiosity that lots of us have within us, that, if we are working in education and teaching and learning, then we want to continue the learning ourselves. So so that you keep up with the current research, with the latest of policy and different developments, that are happening within education, not only within Scotland and Europe, but, globally as well. It also gives you a chance to develop the academic skills, of criticality, and being able to see things, whether it's policy, curriculum, practice, from different perspectives, and to put your own lens on that as well. So, this analytical, critical lens that we want you to do, so that you're not just accepting of the latest that comes out, whether it's from Scottish government or at UK government level, that actually that you can apply that and you can be critical and think, how does this work for me? How does this compare? And it also gives you a chance to engage with different literature as well. So, whether it's reports, textbooks, academic texts, journal articles, etc. There's a lot there, and we support students to engage with that range of literature. It really is about deepening your own knowledge and skills in education. As I said before, you can specialise in one particular area, or you can have it a bit more open. And I'll show you some of the examples in a minute or two. But what we've found is that, especially these days, where there does, in Scotland, where there seems to be an oversubscription of teachers, mainly obviously at at the more junior levels, after their NQT year, but there are more teachers than there are jobs. And so by doing and continuing your studies to master's level, it can improve your career prospects. I've had students who have gone into acting head posts. I've got students who have gone into leadership, whether it's at college or at school level. I've had students one of my students, she has ended up taking quite a senior job within the NHS to do with professional development. Others have moved from school into local authority. So, there are lots of opportunities there to support your career progression. And I think also there's those personal skills, and of, I suppose, resilience, organization, time management, being a self-starter and being motivated. It does help you hone all of those skills as well. So it's not just the subject knowledge, it's the other skills that go around it. So the MEd Education Studies, the part-time course, is very flexible in nature. So lots of students will balance this alongside working full-time, families, caring responsibilities, all of the above. And it means that because it's modular, you can choose a range of modules and a range of topics that really suit what you want to study. The students, what you can do is you can bring in credits from prior master's level, so level 11 studies. However, what we would, our rule is that there's a maximum of 40 credits that can be carried over from the PGDE. It can be from Strathclyde, it can be from any other institution, but we have a maximum of 40 from a PGDE. If you have more than 40 credits from a PGDE, it might be that one of my sister course, which is the MEd Professional Practice, maybe that is more suited for you, because that was actually developed as a course to be the follow-on from the PGDE. And typically with the professional practice course, students would come in with quite a large number of credits, perhaps 80 or 100 credits from a PGDE. And it means that they achieve the full 180 credits and get the master's award quicker, because they do have those. Whereas most of my students on the Education Studies course, some of them have no credits at all from prior learning. Others perhaps have 20 or 40 from PGD, but they will take a wider range, and the selection of modules and the time that it takes to gain the full award is a bit longer. So it's something that we can talk about at the end. If that's your case, if you want to ask me a bit about, prior credits and which course would be most suitable for you, I can point you in the right direction if if you do have lots of credits that you want to carry across. So typically, this is what it looks like. So as I said, it's 180 credits to gain the full master's degree. And typically in year one, this is what it would look like. So we have 3 semesters. We work on basically on school terms, rather than the traditional university with the 2 semesters. So we have 3 semesters in line with the school's terms. So we've got the autumn term, which we're in just now, spring term up until Easter, and then the summer term up until the end of June. And typically, this is what it looks like. And I say typically because it's very flexible. And this shows you if you were working at full pace, shall we say, this is what it would look like. However, you do have up to 5 years to complete your studies. So you don't need to work at quick a pace as this. So yeah, year one, you would take a 20 credit module in each semester. At that point, you can exit with a PG cert, okay? Or you can continue into year two. In year two, you would do the compulsory. This is we only have 2 things that are compulsory: the research methods module and the dissertation. But apart from that, all the other modules are of your choosing. So in second year, you would do the research methods module, which is starting right now, or last week. Then you would have another 20 credit modules, at which point you could exit with the PG DIP, the diploma level with 120 credits, or you can decide that you want to continue into the third year and do your dissertation, which takes up all of your final year, and you would finish with the full master's award. As I say, it can be, take up to 5 years. You can take a break. You can perhaps take 2 modules a year instead of 3. There's lots of, the flexible nature of it really suits people who are also working and have, other commitments as well. I was talking about prior learning and the credits that you can bring in. One thing I should also perhaps have said is that it's only the qualifications from within the last 5 years that we can consider for prior credits. So if you got 40 credits from your PGDE 10 years ago, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to add those. And those are just a rule that we have here at Strathclyde. It's about, the learning being up to date. So as long as you're within the last 5 years, then we can consider the credits, and that gives you a bit of a boost, on this journey here. So you can be quite niche, as I said. We offer a number of pathways. So there are 3 modules in each of these pathways, the 6 pathways on the left-hand side with the bullet points. So with one that's very, very popular is the inclusive education pathway. So Jane, Yuchen, and Zinnia, they lead the inclusion modules. And if you take all 3 of those, you can exit with the PG cert in inclusive education, or you can continue your studies. Some people do just want to do the certificate. One of the bonuses, for example, with that one is that you then get, when you successfully complete it, you get the special what's the word, accreditation, that you have it on your GTCS Scotland, on your account, that you've got this, recognised qualification in inclusive education. And also our supporting teacher learning, a trio of modules, they're also accredited by the GTCS. So yeah, you can be quite niche, and you can take 3 modules which make up each of these pathways, Or we call it a bit pick and mix. You can choose some of these, or you can dip in and out of other modules, so you can make it as tailored and niche as you want to be, or you can make it as wide as you would like it to be. And some of the other modules are, so multilingual and multicultural education, that's the one that I run. Where Yvette does a module about gender and sexuality. There is the compulsory research methodologies and reasoning, widening participation, which is all about like widening achievement, closing the gap, etc. So we've got lots of different modules that you can take. So yeah, it's completely up to you. The only two compulsory ones are if you are continuing to dissertation level, that you need to do research methods, and you obviously need to do the full dissertation at the end. And this is what they look like. I won't read that out to you. You can have a wee read of it yourself. Most people do the 60 credit dissertation, but we do offer a 40 credit dissertation as well. There is no difference in those in terms of the word count or your deadline for submission. The only difference literally is that the dissertation is, with it being 60 credits, in terms of the cost, it would be 3 times a 20 credit module, whereas the 40 credit dissertation would only cost you 2 times the 20 credit fee that we charge. So that's the difference. I would say most people, probably 80% of students, take the 60 credit dissertation rather than the 40. But there is that flexibility there. And this is what I was saying about the inclusive education and the supporting teacher learning. So those ones are the ones with accreditation with the GTCS. In terms of what the teaching and learning looks like, it's we run mostly a blended module. So what typically that looks like is at the very start of the module, you will have a Saturday, for example, 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock on a Saturday. That's on campus, in person. And I think that's a good way to kick things off. It means that people can get to, see each other, in person, get to know each other, start to build those relationships between their peers as well. And also, I suppose, with us as staff. And then also at the end of the module, they would have a Saturday. So it's like a Saturday at the beginning to kick things off, a Saturday at the end to round things up before you move on to the assignment. And the midweek sessions, which are twilight sessions, will be online. And I think that works quite well because I know what it's like to do this. And I think so before COVID, all our sessions used to be in person on campus. And it was probably quite difficult for people. You've been in school or at work all day. You're then having to come straight into Glasgow city centre, with all the traffic and trying to get parked somewhere for a 6:30 start. And then especially in the midwinter, in bleak January nights, you're not finishing until 8 o'clock, and by the time you get home, it's dark again. It also makes it more difficult, and that's if you're local, it also made it more difficult for anyone who was out with the Central Belt to be able to study with us. So during COVID, obviously everything went online, and I don't think people were entirely happy with that either. So what we did was, after when things started to go back to normal, was try and keep a wee bit of both. So we've got a bit of in person, we've got a bit of online, especially for those twilight midweek sessions where it's you just want to get home and get your tea and get things, get the kids and the dogs sorted. However, we do have some modules that are taught entirely online, and that might suit you better. The module catalogue that we've got does indicate which ones those are. But you can do it entirely online if that suits you. And sometimes we have international students, or students who are living overseas, who will do that, and they can complete the whole degree doing everything online. Now, I've had a student, I had one of our former students, she did come to Strathclyde and do a PGD many moons ago, and is now teaching English in Japan and has lived there for a few years. She was, so she came and did it. And all of her sessions were online. I had another student 2 years ago. She was in Dubai, teaching out there, teaching science, I think, I think it was physics she was teaching, but yeah, teaching out in Dubai. And again, that really suited her. Also, more closer to home, I had a student from Aberdeen. So that suited her to come down, once at the beginning of the term and then once at the end of the module. But then actually some of the modules she decided to pick were the online ones because it was just easier for her. So yeah, again, very flexible depending on your own circumstances. And the assessments are very varied. There some modules do have that traditional essay-based assessment. The digital education, I think they have this portfolio and a presentation. There will be group things that you have to do. So it might be a PowerPoint, it could be an in-person presentation to your peers. There are lots of different ways that we do this. So yeah, it depends on the module, and we try and make it up to date and relevant and meaningful as well. This is what the course page looks like. As you'll see, there is a September and a January start. And we can put, maybe Moira, you could perhaps pop the URL into the chat. Would that be okay? Just so that you've got the link to the page. And this is where you'll find out lots of information about the page, entry requirements, things like fees and funding, and then also the apply button if you want to take it further, or contact us if you need any more information about the course. So yeah, please don't hesitate to get in touch with anyone, and we can have a chat about it. So yeah, this kind of 5 years is 5 is the magic number, really. We can accredit prior learning, prior master's learning up from 5 years, and you also have 5 years to complete the master's after you start your studies. In terms of funding, perhaps something else to think about is if you're going to self-fund, if perhaps it might be your school, your local authority, or your employer, depending on who that would be. There also is a way of getting SAS funding for part-time students as well. So it's like a loan to cover your fees. So it's something you might want to explore, and you can get in touch with us if for more information about that if necessary. You can also find out a wee bit more about us online. So we've got the Institute of Education podcast, where students and staff, have the little interviews there, and you can find out, more information about what we do and research that they're involved in. We've also got a blog from the institute, and yeah, there's sometimes opportunities on there, as well as on X. There might be sessions that are happening, or free CPD stuff, or even just the latest research or reports, etc. So yeah, you can find us online as well. As I said right at the beginning, you are a student in the exact same way as the full-time students, your typical full-time undergrad students. You will, you have all the same facilities and all the same support. So for example, the types of student support that we can offer are the learner development series services. So they have got excellent, the staff can work with you one-to-one. You can do small groups. They can help you with study skills. Perhaps it's been a long time since you've done any academics, reading and writing, so they can help you with that type of thing. There's also advice and support services. So it might be to do with accommodation or benefits, or that type of thing as well. We have the chaplaincy, so anything to do, with religion and faith and belief, we do have those types of services as well. Student experience are fantastic. They can deal with lots of different inquiries, to do with your with things like your student card or where your timetable or how the app works and these types of things as well. There's a help desk that you can just call into or drop into, or you can pop them a wee email. And there are also reporting as well. And reporting, it could be of things like that you for example, if it was bullying, or reporting issues if it was to do with the campus, the campus facilities, or if you've got a problem with IT, etc. So there are lots of services there. We've got the disability and wellbeing services who can help with if you perhaps suspect that you have a disability or neurodiversity, then you can see them about having a one-to-one assessment. We can also look at adjustments to teaching and learning and assessment. So, for example, in exams, typically it might be that students get extra time if they have a disability. They can also help with technology as well. Now, whether that is in the short term or in the long term, I know one of my students had, we see all things in this business, but, I had one of my students who had a broken wrist and couldn't do any typing or writing. And so what happened was, we thought it was going to be software that they would give her, but actually what they did is they did a one-to-one session with her and showed her the types of software that she would be able to use, most of it being Microsoft actually, to help her the kind of voice to text stuff that she could use. But there's lots of, they've got great, facilities and lots of hardware and software to support. It might be personal assistance. So some students need note takers or like a companion on campus. It might be someone who's got a hearing impairment, and we can facilitate that as well. So it might be mentoring as a study support. The library are also very good for study support and study skills too, how to reference, or how to do academic writing, how to find books in the library, because if you were anything like me, the last time, when you went to university, it was all books in the library, whereas these days we've got the online catalogue has really exploded, and the majority of journals, etc. That's the way that you would access them. So yeah, we can do things like return to work. And like phased returns. It might be risk assessments if if anyone's pregnant, these types of things. I had a student who broke his femur and couldn't get about the campus. So, again, disability and wellbeing services, short term intervened and helped out with like a parking pass for him. And we changed our room bookings to make sure it was all, accessible rooms for him to get about, so he didn't need to go up and down stairs, etc. So they're fantastic, and all of that support is there for you as well. You can also use the library. I can't remember the opening hours, but you have also got the access to Strathclyde Sport. Now, I think these are the up-to-date prices. If not, it might have gone up slightly. I can't remember, but they are very, very reasonable. So it's, yeah, you have access to all of this as well. And the facilities are fantastic. They've got a great list of classes, and yeah, and obviously for us in the School of Education, the Institute of Education, it's really handy because it's right next door. We've got this little triangle, the library across the road, start the cafe at the bottom, and the sports building right next door, so you don't need to go much further. But if you do want to wander down to the very bottom of the hill, then the Strathclyde, the student union is down there. So on the picture on the right hand side, you can see Roasters, which is a little cafe, and that's on the first level or ground level. And then above that, up these steps, it takes you to the traditional student union. There are kind of a couple of pool tables. There's pints, there's karaoke, they have pub quizzes and all this types of thing as well. So whether it's something a bit quieter and a wee bite to eat you want, you can get that in Roasters, or you can go upstairs and you can go to the Student Union. And again, all of that is open to you, 7 days a week. So that